To all the dissenters out there who thought this review was not gonna happen, all I have to say is, ha! Now before I begin this review, I want to make one thing perfectly clear, and I will not repeat myself afterwards. The thoughts and opinions shared in this video are critiques on the show RWBY itself and not on its creator, Monty Oum. Personally, I have nothing but the utmost respect for this guy, and I truly admired what he was able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. He made a show that really resonated with people. People are huge fans of it. They adore it. They love it. They cosplay as it. It has touched a lot of people out there and inspired them to be just as creative. That is truly worth admiration, and I really respect him for that. This review in no way is meant to tarnish Oum's legacy or belittle the work that he has accomplished over the years. On the contrary, it's meant to celebrate it and to give an honest, thorough review on the show that he put his heart and soul in. And I think that Oum, as a creative mind, would have understood and appreciated this. Feedback from your audience, whether positive or negative, is the best way a creative mind can grow. Anybody who has ever created something understands this, and I'm pretty sure Monty did as well. And it is extremely tragic and heartbreaking that we lost such a strong, innovative, and creative mind so soon. And so I dedicate this review to the memory of Monty Oum and what he has given the world. You will be missed, buddy, but I promise you this, you will never be forgotten. And with that said, let's get to the review, finally! Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy here today to give you my long-awaited and much-anticipated review of the web series RWBY. Now, RWBY takes place in the world of Remnant, a mystical land where humans fight off against these monsters known as the creatures of Grimm by using this magical element they discovered called dust. And we follow Ruby Rose and her friends as they attend a magical academy known as Beacon Academy, where they learn to become better hunters and huntresses, as well as facing various threats throughout the series from creatures of Grimm and human enemies alike. Like most of us who spend way too much time on the internet, I've known about RWBY for a while now. In fact, I even remember seeing the first trailer for RWBY back in 2012, almost 3 years ago. And I even remember a lot of people asking me back then if I was going to watch and review the thing. And I did sort of plan to do it. I liked the way it looked. I thought the action scenes were well handled, and I liked the color. The only issue I really had is that back then, I wasn't really a huge fan of 3D animation, especially when it's very anime-esque. I was kind of like, stay away from me. And if I'm to be honest here, after watching the first episode about 2 years ago, I just didn't find the show all that appealing. It didn't really do its job to suck me into its world. So I just didn't care to watch it. But a lot of you were begging and pleading me for years now to watch and review RWBY. And finally, I decided to cave in and give RWBY a watch. There's 2 volumes, it's on Netflix, so I decided to sit and watch it through and through. And I have to say, after watching the series in its entirety and doing a little research into the making of the show, I have some newfound respects for RWBY, and I found myself enjoying the show. First, as always, let's talk about the animation. Now, when grading the animation for this series, I am taking into consideration the fact that this show was produced by an independent company on a rather low budget with a small team of self-taught animators. And with all those elements considered, the animation in the show is quite impressive. I mean, sure, there are parts in the animation that could use a little more polish to them, like the way characters walk and stand and how they gesture or how they pick stuff up, but as a whole, I was quite blown away by the animation they were able to pull off with all things considered. I mean, they had some solid character designs, vibrant backgrounds, and fast-paced fight scenes. In fact, the animation really stands out and excels during most of their action sequences. Which I guess now leads to arguably the best element of the show. Its action sequences. And they put a lot of emphasis on it because there's so many action sequences in this show, and all of them are just a hoot to watch. Always fast-paced, energetic, fluid, and thrilling to watch. And RWBY might quite possibly have the coolest food fight I've ever seen in a show. Like, we need more food fights like that. The concept and story is rather basic but serviceable, reminding me of a mix of anime meets Saturday morning cartoons. But the one element that really stood out to me in the story is the world of Remnant. This world is just really interesting, and it kind of pulled me into the show as I want to learn more about the history of Remnant. What are these creatures of Grimm? The world is just fascinating as a whole, and I will give the writers credit for creating such a unique and enthralling world. And of course, we can't forget about the characters now, most of which I found really enjoyable. They're solid characters with their own interesting personalities. Ruby Rose, our main protagonist and charismatic leader, is quite enjoyable in the show. I just love her fun-loving, eccentric personality. It really brightens up the mood of the show, and I do feel like she has a genuine connection with each member of her team. The only real issue I have with this character is that out of all the members of RWBY, she is the one with the weakest development. She's a very straightforward character. Not much depth is given to her. And for me at least, that is kind of a big deal, especially since she is the main character that we are following in the story. You gotta add a little bit more to the character than just being a fun-loving, eccentric girl. She needs to have a bit more depth than that. And I'm sure they're going to rectify that in later volumes, so it's not like a deal breaker for the character. She still is a whole lot of fun, but could use a little bit more development, guys, so really think about that. I'll be straightforward with you guys on this. I don't care much for Weiss. She was and probably still is my least favorite member of RWBY. I just don't find the character, her personality, her backstory, or the dilemmas that she faces in the series all that interesting. In fact, I feel like they're very played out and, I hate to use this word again, but I'm gonna do it anyway, cliche. I mean, come on. A rich girl from a well-known and established family with her nose up in the air and a silver spoon up her ass, who doesn't really connect well or bond well with others and treats them as if they're lower than her, not even worth her time, but then slowly learns the value in humility and starts connecting and bonding with others. I'm so sick and tired of that character trope. And honestly, Weiss reminds me a whole lot of a certain blonde girl from a certain anime I really love that I also could not stand. Yeah, sure, I'm not going to deny that she was given some proper development, but I honestly didn't give two craps about it. And that's all I'm gonna say about the character. We're gonna move on now to my favorite member of RWBY, and that would be Blake. She is without a doubt the most fascinating character in the show that faces the most interesting dilemma, something that I will not give away here in this review. I just really empathized and connected with this character, and I really love the development that she's given throughout the show. I wish I could talk more about this character as she is just so freaking fascinating, but that would give away way too many details and awesome reveals about the character. So just know that she is very awesome. I like her a lot, and she is my favorite member of RWBY. And now the final member of RWBY, Yang. She's a whole lot of fun, not much more to say about her. She does get some development, and there is an interesting story that they explore in the second volume that I'm hoping they're going to expand more in the third volume because it's really interesting, and this character is really going places now. And though I may take some issue with some individuals of RWBY, the team as a whole is really strong. They have some great and dynamic teamwork, and I do feel like they're all true friends. And the last character that I truly loved in this show and kind of wished she was a part of RWBY was Pyrrha, the warrior woman with a heart of gold. This girl is just a freaking champ. Not only is she very well animated, I just love the way the character looks. Not only is she a complete badass that can take down any opponent that she faces, probably one of the strongest characters in the show, but she's also given a lot of good development and truly cares about the members of her team, particularly John, who she is quite infatuated with for some reason. Regardless, Pyrrha and John have undeniable chemistry and quite possibly have the strongest relationship in the entire series. And now comes the hate, because now we're gonna delve into some of the issues I have with the series RWBY. Now I won't deny that the first volume is significantly weaker when compared to the second volume, but I mean that's a no-brainer considering the fact that when they were making the first volume, this was the first time they've ever attempted to make a show like this, so it's uncharted territory. They had to build it from the ground up, and when you do that, you're gonna make a couple mistakes here and there, so I will not fault the show for that. But I will point out that there are some glaring issues with the first volume, like the jittery animation in some parts and the formulaic storytelling. Honestly, the first and second volume of RWBY do follow stereotypical tropes that you see in stories nowadays, some of which are handled well, but others not so much. There are quite a few tropes in the story that are so painfully cliche, they feel like they were ripped out of an after-school special. Like the episode where John gets bullied by these cliche bullies that are like, "Hey, John, you're gonna do my homework now, huh? Loser, you're gonna do my work, and it ends exactly the way you think it's going to end. Now the episode isn't entirely bad, as John is given a lot of good and essential development in this episode, but I mean, come on, do we really need the bully trope in this series? I mean, seriously? There are also a few characters in the series that I felt like were either underdeveloped or completely weak and ineffectual. The characters that I felt like were underdeveloped was first off Team Juniper, not only as individuals, but as a team. I mean, yeah, sure, Pyrrha and John, they got some development, they have a strong chemistry, but what about Nora and Ren? They were interesting characters, they had something to offer, but they're completely sidelined in the series. And that's a damn shame. I would have loved to see more of them, and I would have loved to see like an episode focused mainly on Team Juniper doing a mission. The team as a whole is unique, and I would love to see them go on adventures, but they're not given enough attention or focus. Another pair of characters that I felt like were underdeveloped were Sun and Neptune. They were interesting, but again, they just kind of fell short. They didn't really offer much to the story. And honestly, they don't really do much either. Like, there's a scene where they show up and it made it seem like they were gonna do something, but at the end of the day, they didn't even do anything. Like, they weren't even needed for that scene. As for the characters I found weak and ineffectual, well, that would be the villains. My God, they're so painfully dull and forgettable. I don't really remember much of them besides the way some of them look. Like one of them has red hair and he always smokes a cigar. There's this one with like green hair. She looks really cute. But other than that, they don't really stand out that much. And they really suck as villains. Like they almost feel like cartoon villains. Like, I'll get you next time. See ya. Like sometimes I'm just waiting for them to say, Team Rocket's blasting off again. Yeah, sure, there are some interesting elements to the villains, and there is this subgroup that works alongside them called the White Fang that is very interesting. They have a really deep backstory that ties in to the politics of this world, which is just freaking fascinating. Honestly, why couldn't we make them the main villains? But other than that, I didn't really care much for the villains, and honestly, they never felt like this looming threat. I never felt like they were such a threat to the main characters. Not to mention their motives throughout the show are completely bland and derivative. So, ladies and gentlemen, overall, though I did find a few faults with the show, as a whole, I'm extremely impressed with what Rooster Teeth and Monty Oum have given us with RWBY. With such a vast and fascinating world to explore, with some fun and likable characters and thrilling action sequences, Monty Oum, you done good, my friend. You done good. And that's why I'm going to give this show a 4 out of 5 stars. It is definitely worth watching, and I am really stoked to see what they have in store for us in Volume 3. But anyway, what did you guys think of the show? Did you find it really enjoyable? Did you like the characters? Or did you find it really boring and dull and you hated the animation, didn't care much for it? And let me know, what is your favorite show produced by Rooster Teeth? Or who is your favorite character in RWBY? Comment below and let me know. And with Horror Month finally upon us, stay tuned. Got a couple of reviews coming your way, as well as a special review coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And until then, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel and be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Watt II, the hunter known as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube!